I have a vice, or never mind, the English language. I've been speaking it for over 60 years and I still don't get it. Part of the job I had when I was working for the U.S. Navy is I did a lot of technical writing. And I went all the way through English 104 when I was in community college way back in the day. You would think I would have a better grasp of the English language. My oldest daughter has got a bachelor's degree in English literature, and she's just now finishing her master's. I still don't get it. I feel sorry for the poor folks that are immigrating to this country, that are going through the naturalization process, doing their requirements, and so they can be sworn in as U.S. citizens. And part of that is learning the English language. Good luck. So what do we got here? Well, here is a pair of simplex vices from the Ridge Tool Company. This one here on the left, that's a number 33. I restored that a couple of years ago, and the thing's heavy. That weighs like 50 pounds, and it takes all I can do to pick it up. Pardon me a second here. It's 3.5-inch jaws. Dave Richards on the Old Steam Powered Machine Shop YouTube channel turned a new screw for me on this vise because the old one was busted. And I thought that would be a good project for his channel, turning a screw for a vintage vise. And, I contacted him in advance and asked him if he'd be interested in doing that. He said, yeah. Got a little bit of flash rust just starting on that. I got to take some Scotch-Brite to clean that up. Anyway, he did it, and he featured it in a video, and that was a year or two ago. So, but this vise looked just like that or worse when I got it. I bought it at a garage sale. Oh, I think I gave $40 for it. It had been sitting outside for decades, and look at it now. This is all cast iron, and look how that shines up. So that's the number 31. This is a bigger brother here. This is a number 51. And this, it's a little different style. The 33, pardon me, that's a 33, not a 31. The 33, it's got pipe jaws in it. This one does not. So this is more of a machinist style vise. Much bigger, much heavier. But do not ask me why anybody would take a carpenter's framing hammer and beat on the slide. I don't get it. Why would anybody do that? And I know it was a carpenter's framing hammer because you can see the marks it left. That's clearly from the serrations on the head of a carpenter's framing hammer. Anyway, people. So I'm going to feature the restoration of this number 51 in a future video. But I did a little snooping. And the Simplex Tool Company, it formed in 1917. At the height of World War I. And they were based out of Woonsocket, Rhode Island. In 1923, they introduced an all-steel slide bench vise to reduce breakage. So apparently in the old days, there was some kind of a problem with vices breaking, and apparently the steel slide design was supposed to prevent that. In 1931, the company was taken over by Simplex Corporation, also of Woonsocket, and they continued to manufacture the vices. So I'm assuming Simplex Corporation and the Simplex Tool Company somehow or another were related before, and they probably dissolved Simplex Tool Company and then reorganized as Simplex Corporation. And considering that was right when the Great Depression was flaming on, that probably has something to do with that. Later in 1931, the Simplex Vice line was sold to Desmond Stephen Manufacturing Company, and they continued to make the Simplex steel slide vices until 1964, when they sold the vice division to the Ridge Tool Company. So you'll notice right here, Ridge Tool Company. And they are based, or were based in, what is that? Alexandria, Ohio? I can't read that. USA. So Ridge bought the vice line from Simplex Corporation. And by the way, Ridge was a subsidiary of the Emerson Electric Company. And Ridge is better known here, at least in the U.S., for their rigid brand of tools. So at first, I thought these vices were much older, like from the 20s or 30s. But when I dug a little deeper and discovered that Ridge didn't have anything to do with Simplex vices until the early 1960s. So at the earliest, these vices, are from the early 1960s. So I'm older than they are. Oh well. At any rate, I'm going to do a series of restoration videos on good old number 51 here. Jiminy Christmas, they even beat on it here with a carpenter's hammer. That had to have been a frustrated kid. That's the only thing I'm thinking. Got in trouble for something and got punished for it and was banished to the outside or to the woodshed or whatever. And so they grabbed Deb's framing hammer and took out their frustrations and started beating on the vise. That's my only guess. Why else would anybody beat on a vise with a carpenter's framing hammer? But what do I know? This vice jaw here, she's got some damage. And by the way, you can barely see it, but these jaws are held on with tapered pins. Well, maybe not tapered pins. It may have been straight pins. I can't remember. A couple of years since I restored this one. So when I redid this and reinstalled the jaws, I used roll pins to reset the jaws. But it was, look at the way they machine. They machine the cast iron and they machine the vice jaws, so the vice jaws fit into that recess, and they were drilled, and then you hold them in place with a roll pin. And I mean, that's solid. They are solid as a rock. You can't budge those. They don't give, they don't move, nothing. So now look at sorry, making you seasick. Look at those jaws. That's how I got this vise. Even though it looked like this, that's what kind of shape those jaws were in. So this one, and the same with the pipe jaws, no wear at all. So this just got left outside and forgotten about, I guess. I don't know, or maybe Grandpa bought it new and then Grandpa died and it just sat outside. So, that was in really good shape. Just needed a good cleaning, and the screw was broken. I had to replace that, but I mean, they must have broke it early on because there's no wear on those jaws at all, unless they replace those jaws. That's a possibility. The pipe jaws are held in place with set screws. I made a new handle for it, and you'll notice I put O-rings on there. So when you're spinning this thing and then you let her go, it's quiet instead of that sharp metallic ring. And don't ask me why I did it. I just did it. So anyway, I'm blathering on too long here. So look in the future for a restoration series on the big Simplex 51 vise. And then I promise you I won't punish you folks anymore with my vice for vices and my horrible puns in the English language. Take care, everybody.